Thank you. In software development, how long is a piece of string is not really a literal question, is it? But more a rhetorical remark when we're asked to estimate the time it's going to take to deliver something, often from very poorly defined requirements. I don't know, we'll say. How long is a piece of string? I want to start with a story. A software company had signed a big contract with a blue ribbon client, and this was to take the project in a completely new and exciting direction and open up many new possibilities for the future. As ever, at the beginning of a project, a scoping exercise was taken and a number of epics were defined. These were taken to the software team. We need you to size these. Rough estimates are fine for now, but we need them by the end of the week. So, once the protestations had died down about the lack of time, the lack of information, and the fact that this was in a new technology that nobody was very familiar with, the team did their best and came up with an estimate range of 6 to 12 months. That's no good, came the response from the CTO. We need it done by the end of the year, but okay, because of the complexity and the uncertainty, I'll give you an extra 4 people. Let us know if you need any more. Well, 4 extra people would be great, but the time it was going to take to recruit and to train, but by that point, the company had, amidst great fanfare, announced to the rest of the world that the project was going to be delivered on the 31st of December. Just a side note, if that's not already blindingly obvious, this is clearly a bad date to set, notwithstanding the fact it was without the software team's agreement. I probably don't need to complete the rest of the story. You could probably work it out for yourself. Suffice to say that the project was delivered in some form by the end of the year. But it involved a lot of sacrifice. The longer-term ramifications were more severe. Over the next 6 months, most of the software team left the organization. And relationships between the product and the tech team broke down so much that whenever subsequent estimates were asked for, well, the software team would just overinflate them massively because we don't want a situation like that again. And the product team would be suspicious about any estimate that came their way. Software estimation is hard. I know that. You know that. But your CEO doesn't necessarily know that. They just want to know when they're going to get something. And we go along with it, don't we? Because well, they're the CEO. So we come up with a raft of different alternatives to try and determine them more accurately. For example, we might use our expert estimators, the principal developer, or the technical lead. We'll count things, use cases, stories, features, and we'll multiply them by a common factor. We might compare them with similar historical projects that we've done. Or we use ranges to encapsulate our uncertainty. We may go with our gut feel, or we'll pad the estimates or just double it to be safe. We may use t-shirt sizing, story pointing, and even generate some Monte Carlo simulations. At the extreme end of the scale, there are a number of complex formulaic ways of calculating estimates based on a series of input parameters. This is the Kokomo 2 model. It has over 20 different input parameters, such as programmer capability, process maturity, the type of language you're intending to use, and even team cohesion. We trial these methods, and what happens? Well, they're still wrong. And maybe that's just because of Hofstadter's law. It was out of this type of situation that the no estimates movement started some years ago. The premise was simple. Estimates are hard to do, impossible even, given the nature of the work. We've tried many times, we've used lots of different methods, and we still get it wrong. And if lean methodology tells us to eliminate waste, and software estimates are of no value, well, the time spent trying to create them will be better spent creating the software we're trying to estimate. A colleague of mine had a team who was very diligent in creating software estimates, but inevitably, at the end of some sprints, they would be out. Cue the worst sprint postmortem you could imagine. You see, their product owner was a former lawyer and wanted to dissect the reason why every 3-point story that had become a 5-point story was so. So this lead developer used to spend lots of hours preparing for that meeting, coming up with all the mitigating factors. So I've got a lot of sympathy with the no estimates line of reasoning because of that type of example. And I'm sure you've been in meetings where you've been asked to come up with that ballpark estimate, that high-level estimate. You've got sketchy requirements. We protest. We do them anyway. We caveat the life out of them, but they just become a reality. Now who loses out? But without estimates, project managers couldn't produce Gantt charts, and where would we be without them? No, seriously, I believe there are times when we need to give an indication to the business on how long things are going to take, so they can make the relevant decisions on where to prioritize effort. So software estimates are hard. The no estimates direction is tempting, but is there a third way? I believe there is. And having been involved in these type of situations many times as a software development manager, I've come to realize that the key ingredient to solving the conundrum of software estimation is trust. For sure, we must do t-shirt sizing, story points, use spikes, and all those good stuff, but having trust trumps all those things. Now, trust is obviously the key to any relationship. I think we'd all agree on that. And it's certainly true in the relationship between tech and product. As I said, I'm not saying let's not do all those good things about estimation. Please don't get me wrong. Don't go back to your product team and say, hey, I went to this conference and we heard a talk about estimation, and the guy said, we don't need to do it anymore. We just need to base it on trust. Peace out, man. You know, everything's good. No, we still need to do those things, but we underpin it with the foundations of trust. Okay, he says trust, but what does that look like? Well, I can't define what it will look like in your particular relationship, but what I can do is suggest 5 things that I think can help build or maximize trust between the teams. Firstly, focus on your sprints. Make the commitments you can, the ones that are knowable, and deliver on them. Give quality demos. Secondly, if you don't make your sprint commitments for whatever reason, then be transparent. Don't hide behind tech speak. If you made a mistake or just had a shocker, call it out. When we fail and we're open about it, it creates psychological safety, which is great for our relationship. Thirdly, ensure your developers understand and live out the commerciality of the business. Don't overdo things. What do I mean by that? I mean, we need to understand that we're in a business that's there to create a profit, or if we work in a not-for-profit organization, to deliver value for others. We don't help ourselves when we gild the lily, when we try to write that new feature in some funky new complex software just because we think it will be cool. Fourthly, put yourselves in their shoes, show empathy. Your product team inevitably have got a number of stakeholders themselves who all want to know when something's going to be done. And they're in the difficult position of having to convey that information to them without having the direct influence over the team, like you do as a lead developer. Lastly, educate them on the complexity of software estimation. For example, use thought experiment analogies to convey how difficult it will be. The example I like would be, how long would it take to add a cantilevered swimming pool between the 20th and the 21st floor of the Shard? Because I think that's what we're doing with our software architecture sometimes. So as I finish, I want to say that I think this is one of, if not the most important thing to get right as lead developer. Why? Solving the conundrum of software estimation is not merely an academic exercise, one that makes us look good if we get better at it. No, It's because it clearly impacts lives significantly. Your people. Your people are the ones who are staying up late at night to come up with all those reasons just to appease the product owner. Your people are the ones who are working over weekends, over Christmas, to get a project finished rather than spending time with their families. It can and it does affect mental well-being and relationships. This is serious stuff. Let's try to get better. Thanks.